Tumultuous. Tumultuous bordering on torture. That's what the Masters was yesterday for a variety of reasons. Welcome to the show. Peel yourself off the mat Monday. Many things to talk about. NBA playoffs are set. The matchups are made. Still have the play-in to determine what will transpire. I believe they get underway sometime in mid-July, the actual playoffs themselves, but play-in games are on tap. And we welcome to the show. Looking great today. I mean, what did you do? You either invested in some new equipment, got a new wardrobe also working here. The hair looks great. You're probably out like a lot of people hitting the driving range, during the days of the Masters thinking, I really should get out there and play a couple of rounds. We welcome Mike Jones to the show. And Mike and I were speaking just before we came on here on Bury Your Bookie. And welcome to the program, by the way. Jeff DeForrest and Mike Jones with you every Monday here on NoFilter.net and their various affiliates. But you were wild in the streets. I mean, I don't know that anybody soaked up more Masters than you did. We were hopelessly out of our pool bet because your inside information, I don't know if you sent any kind of hate mail to Bob Koepka, the father of Brooks, who you saw out on the golf course. Passed along the info that he was going clubber lang. He was like locked in a room with a 7-iron and was just going to work on his short game and didn't make the cut, which is a disaster when you're playing pool golf from a betting standpoint. And then remind me never to ever circle the name of Tony Finau at any time except on a hit list of guys that I'll never bet on again. So we were finished early with I had 2 guys miss the cut out of 7. You had 1 with Koepka. And it didn't really diminish my interest, but it took a little bit of the emotion out of watching the Masters. So I'm indifferent. I like Rory McIlroy. You thought Mike Jones, and let's start there because you were laced with anger and acrimony, thinking that, and I think McIlroy has made a good account of himself. He sucks it up after losses. He's always respectful to the press. He seems to understand the value of the media. Looks to be well liked by a variety of players. I don't know. He hugged more people than the star of Debbie Does Dallas did in that movie when it came out after the tournament. People seem to be genuinely thrilled and elated for him that he got this giant so-called monkey off his back about winning the Masters after 10 years out of the money or out of the winner's circle in majors. That's 40 some odd majors he went without winning one. And yet you thought that he came across as a complete fraud, a Fugazi City phony baloney because of the way that he reacted after he won the tournament. And you later made amends, I believe.
All right, let me attack this. So I think you're stretching a little bit. I was just initially brought off by the emotion. I just don't remember Tyler Jack, great players doing this. And if you're the best in the game, which I think he is, Scheffler might be a close second, or you could say they're 1-2.
But Scheffler has no personality.
Yeah, but you're expected to go. You're expected to do this. And, what I heard afterwards, after I simmered down a little bit in my emotion about it, just like, come on, Rory, be a man, stand up, be the right thing and the whole thing. I didn't realize from 7 years old it was his dream. He'd been trying to do it he blew the one in 2011 that he talked about when he had a back 9 lead and lost. And then he doesn't win a major. And I think that's the tough part about having stardom at such a young age when you don't know any better. And now we're into the world of social media. So now you got the scoreboards and the TVs and there are 50,000 strong all around and gambling and the distraction and then live tour and all the stuff that he gets involved without. And I thought that didn't happen to all of it. And when I asked Jack Nicklaus to comment on it, he said he didn't care about the Grand Slam. He was caring about winning tournaments, take care of his family, getting up there and winning every day. But we, the media, make this out into be one big thing. So maybe that was a culmination of all the pressure, self-induced, and that's what it was about. But I look at it like, don't put self-induced pressure on yourself ever. I'm not one that ever said if I was playing any competition, which I have, I don't look at a leaderboard. I don't want to know. I don't even know what it is. Because the last thing I do is see I'm winning, I might clam up. If I don't know, I just go and finish it. Oh, look at this, I won. Oh, this, I qualified. And I like that I'm starting to hear less and less of board watching because when you're not a winner and you don't do it, you probably shouldn't stare at something to distract you of what you did. But I go back to this with him. Just 2 things. Justin Rose on Saturday, I think had a problem playing with DeChambeau. Could have been that rivalry, live this, type thing. And DeChambeau was one playing to the crowd, slapping hands,
Yeah.
even at the end of 18, walking by, grabbing hands. I think there was something about the
When
roar
did
of
he
him.
become so popular, Bryson DeChambeau?
Yeah, I think he's done a
He was
lot
a
of
tour
YouTube videos.
scumbag just 2 years ago in
Yeah,
the eyes of many.
well, you know what it is, Jeff, is that he does this break 50 on YouTube, which I watch, where he'll get a partner and he'll put a tees up and he'll try a scramble and break 50, which is virtually impossible. Anybody who ever breaks 50 in a scramble is a liar, but yet he does it on video. So I think he's engaged more in his personality. The big thing he was doing was trying to hit a hole in one over his house with it, and he finally did it after a couple weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, like doing things that make people
Yeah.
like him, and he's showing his
He's out there.
personality. You know, a manufactured one. But I think in this case, he must have gotten Justin Rose's skin. Because go back to 16 on
Yeah, you mean
Saturday.
McIlroy.
Justin Rose misses
Yeah.
3 putts from 4 feet on 16. If he makes that birdie, he wins. And now what are we talking about? Rory's a choke artist. Like he goes from the greatest golf in the world to a choke artist over what Justin Rose did. So to me, relax. You did what you did. You accomplished it. I don't know that he's going to win majors. I'm going to go against him now that I think he's got them back. Now he can move on and be a father, and all that pressure relieves himself. And now the distraction comes in. Everybody on the Golf Channel saying now he's going to go on a potentially win a Grand Slam. And I know you want to stir the pot like that to gain interest in the sport, but I'm not sure. We're trying to brand a different way. I'm going to brand this way and say, okay, I think he's accomplished what he did. It's unbelievable to be the 6th Grand Slam winner. I do not hate the guy. I think it's all right. I just thought he was a little over the top of the reaction. And then going back to how he played, DeChambeau took fault on his play and went up to handle the media and did it. I thought Rory's laying off on 13 and put it in the water and making double was mind-blowing to me. Go down and knock it. You're the best driver of the golf ball in the world. Go out. And even if you hit it in the water on 13 on your second shot, you can get up and down for 5 and 6 is the worst score you make. Now you hit a short wedge, you're thinking he's going to go left, and he shocks the world, bringing everybody back in. And then on 15, he hits the best shot I ever saw Ricky Fowler hit at the Augusta National Live. That was the best shot, as good as Jack Nicklaus's 4-iron, 1-iron at 17 in Pebble Beach. That was, under those circumstances and what the media does say pressure-wise, the best golf shot I've ever seen.
It's kind of like watching Carey from the grave, and all of a sudden the arm comes out once again. Just when you thought he was dead and buried, he would hit a great shot like he did on 17, a tremendous approach shot, makes the birdie, goes up one. And we had the professor on Friday, and he was talking about how he always bets Justin Rose, who had a phenomenal round on Thursday to lead the tournament by 3 shots. Yeah, and you're thinking, okay, here's the veteran guy. He's going to eventually succumb to the fact that he is an old guy that hasn't won in a long time at that level, although he's finished second a couple of times.
Yeah.
How this guy's 120 to 1 is almost scary, because there had to be some bookmakers with cyanide caps if they took a lot of action at that price, because they were going to be doling out capital for the next 10 years, trying to make enough Bobby Bonilla delayed deferred payments to pay off all of the people they owed money to. Some of them would have had to leave and go to non-extraditable countries, I think, although these organizations are so big. It's not like, you're talking about, Bernie from Brooklyn, who has to escape, the possibilities of being bodily harmed because he doesn't have the cash to pay. But so Rose, appears to be out of it, comes back, has this amazing run, and the professor finds himself in a situation. And this is the stuff, Mike, I don't know about you, but hitting something at 120 to 1, I don't care what it is. I've never hit a horse at that price.
Crazy.
I mean, you would probably be able to count, on your hands and toes in the history of thoroughbred racing, horses that have paid $242. There have been, but it's so rare that you'd be out of your mind if you were chasing that.
Right.
And, that's one of the great things about golf. You are, if you get past the favorites. I mean, Scheffler had won 2 of the last 3 Masters, has been playing, golf where he's been knocking on the door. He was a logical favorite. You're taking 4 to 1 on Scheffler. There's no romance in that, but having this guy at 100 to 20 to 1, and he's on the practice range getting set for a playoff, and then you get the final. I mean, the legacy of Rory McIlroy was going to be leaning more towards Jackie Smith, Bill Buckner, Blue Devils this year in the NCAA tournament. And is there no more derogatory, disparaging remark that somebody could make about a competitor other than, you're a choker?
Yeah.
And he was set to go down among the great chokes of all time. I don't know that it was Van de Velde, Jean Van de Velde, my favorite choke in the game of golf was
unbelievable.
Remember that when that
Oh,
little leprechaun who was
absolutely.
dragging a guy looked like a midget wrestler? He's running up to the tee saying, "No, no, you're not even a driver. You fool! You French
Yeah,
fool!"
yeah, yeah,
And the guy hits a driver into some thatch. Looks like a scene out of a Dickens novel as he's trying
yeah,
to find the ball there, and
yeah.
then he hits the next one into that moat.
Mm-hmm.
He's rolling his
That was
pants up
incredible.
and blows a 3-shot lead. And the weird thing about that one, as much of a choke as that was, I mean, a complete gag job, he still ended up in a 3-man playoff,
Yeah,
which he also butchered, as he lost the tournament. But
yeah.
I don't know that it was of that magnitude, but
No,
to put one in the trap from 125 away on
yeah,
it's not like that's a tiny green there on 18.
yeah,
You would have to think that at the very worst, he would have knocked the ball on the green and at least given himself a
yeah.
chance to two putt for the tournament.
And just roughly, last year he had the same shot on 18, and he hold it with
Yeah,
Morikawa. If you remember the highlights, he gets in here and holds it with Morikawa. They both hold it out of the bunker. Um, yeah, I really thought he was going to make the putt. I was shocked that he missed it, and it goes a little left. I see it, and the green is not easy. But like, yeah, now you're thinking he's going to a playoff. Like, how could what now? And then he knocks it stiff on with a great same exact club, same distance, same thing. And now he knocks it stiff, knows exactly what he did. And I think that's the thing to me. He shot 73 yesterday and won, And I said if one of those guys at 6 under shoots 65, they win. And if Rose showed 65, he wins. And that's what I was calling for yesterday in discussions with my friends. Somebody's going to give these guys a run. I
yeah.
didn't think DeChambeau was going to drop off the way he did, but I also thought Rory had a really good chance. I thought he was going to win. I thought the 2-shot lead was enough. But when he lost that lead right away at the third hole, and then all of a
Oh,
sudden loses it
my,
again,
my son sent me a text. I didn't even
I'm
know that
thinking,
he was talking. Said that
in
he's
4
choking
holes, he
already.
goes from down 1 to up 3. It was just it was a crazy, as Brandel Chambly said, it was the most bipolar round of golf you'd ever watched.
Yeah, I
and,
made
and
some.
and I think he to it. Yeah, but it was really exciting. I love being on the phone with my golf guys. I reconnected with a golf buddy of mine in Vegas I haven't spoken to in a while on the threads, and we were just going nuts. And our boy Arberg making triple on 18.
He's in
Kind of,
there also. Good.
yeah. I mean, there was one point we were out of the contest, but I had the top 3 guys that were in first, second, and third, and out of the 7, and I'm sitting there going, how can I blown it? But it was pretty. It was just a great event. Love the Masters. I'll say this till the day I die. It's the one event that I would pay top dollar to go watch, just because being on the grounds. It's not even as much the entertainment of the actual golf, but you're seeing a prestige piece of property that's been on video since 1955 on CBS, and it's a beautiful whole venue. And then the class of the patrons, the class of the whole people there is just beyond anything you'll experience at a sporting event. I think it's a must. Father-son must do if your son and father are golfers to do
Yeah.
together. It's just a
Jim
fantastic.
Nance, wow. I mean, is he losing it? It's only a matter of time before Iron
A
Eagle
little
is
too
coming.
much.
Haven't
Yeah.
we talked to Ian
Yeah.
frequently on the shows that we do, and
Mhm.
we're always teasing him. We intro him with the Masters music because it's only a matter of time before he has the number one
Yeah.
spot in the football
Sure.
broadcast booth for CBS. And then you
Mhm.
have to think. I mean, Nance's performance yesterday, he looked like Tammy Faye fucking
Yeah.
Baker, didn't he? He's sobbing. He tried everything he could do.
Yeah.
It was like watching the
I
old
mean,
Roy Firestone shows where he tried to
yeah.
make the guy cry.
Tremendous.
Well, my
Jim-
favorite question ever asked along those lines by Firestone, who was a decent guy. I met him a few times, knew his father a little bit, and a very talented individual. But when he had that one-on-one show, and his whole objective was to get a guy to break down. So he asked
Yeah.
Pete Rose. He says, and this was one of those things. Having interviewed a zillion people in my lifetime as well, you're thinking,
Mhm.
do I really want to ask a question this fucking stupid? And so he says to Pete Rose, Pete, if you were a woman, what kind of woman would you be? And Pete's answer was an ugly one,
That's great.
which was, I mean, appropriate to describe what happened to the professor yesterday. 120 to 1 on Justin Rose. You miraculously get into a playoff. You're figuring Rory just choked, and he comes back and makes amends there. And hits, like you said, a brilliant shot into 18 from the same position. He had just shanked one into the trap and makes the putt, and that's history. I don't begrudge him anything. I never thought much. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
I like it when it's moving to people.
Yeah.
When they win in sports. I mean, I wasn't really that type of guy.
Yeah.
start sobbing. And I wasn't one to hang my head for a long period of time after a loss because
Mhm.
you have to, keep in mind it's only a game, my friend. And it never bothered me, winning or losing.
There's a lot less pressure
Because you want to
on
win. Yeah.
there's not less monetary pressure, life pressure that you get. Like I like the stories of the guy that the Q guys, the guys that make the Masters, win the amateur to get into the Masters, get to play something.
Yeah.
Like those are the guys that I think really are the
Club
story
Pro
of
in the US
greatness.
Open.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to guys that have struggled to keep their cards and stuff like that, and that's pressure golf. When you got to go down to Q school and make a 4-footer for a livelihood, then you break down. Then you say, I have a chance to make, help my family and get forward. But so
Our
much money,
mutual
all
friend,
the stuff they have. Sorry.
yeah, our mutual friend Mike Donald, who lost in a
Yeah.
playoff at the U.S. Open to Hale
Right.
Irwin, who would hold like a 70-foot putt to get into
Mhm.
the playoff. And then Mike hangs tough with this guy all throughout the playoff and ends up losing
Right.
late in the round.
Mhm.
And that would have given him a 10-year exemption
Right.
and, a ticket to punch to all of the majors.
Right. Great
And he ended
story.
up like caddying for some guy in Tijuana after that. So it meant a whole lot to his career. It can make a big, big difference. One of those tournaments, and in this case for McIlroy, he joins Saracen, Hogan, Player, Big Jack, Tiger as the only six golfers now to have accomplished the career Grand Slam. All right, NBA matchups are set here, Mike Jones. I don't know if you're going to dive into some baseball for today's
Yeah.
picks. You're sort of intermittently.
Yeah, we'll take a break on baseball, but I just been watching the Dodgers lose 16-0 and 4-2 to Chicago, but follow my Tigers a little bit, go 2 out of 3. Marlins pick up 2 wins. It's been a little interesting in the bases. Um, I think what I'm looking at is I like the home teams in the NBA play-ins. I like
Okay.
Orlando a lot. I think Orlando's the better team. I know they played the other night and yesterday and had an interesting game where Atlanta won. So they're coming back to Orlando to play that game. And I'm a little worried about the Heat. I like Chicago's team, a little younger, a little energetic. Thought the Heat might have been favored in that game because of just the experience, but they made Chicago 1.5-point favorite. I kind of think the Warriors don't. I mean that's going to be an interesting game, right? The Warriors, who they
Take
got
on the
the
Grizzlies.
take
There's
on the
some amazingly, valid matchups in the early rounds. You don't always see this. I mean, you might get one, but even if you look at the Clippers and the Denver Nuggets were in decline there a little bit towards the end of the regular season. They fired their coach with 3 games left to go, Mike Malone, who appeared to me to be a very popular guy
yeah.
with the people in the lineup there. Although it's funny, after he got fired, all you saw were clips of Jokic, kind of like Shaq was with Stan Van Gundy. Coming off the court there and, essentially saying, hey, it's either me or you, What was that, Spoelstra? Yeah, no, Shaq was Van Gundy and then LeBron and
Yep.
Spoelstra. You would just see them sort
Right.
of coldly stiff each other as they went to a timeout and the guy went by and just grabbed a,
Yeah,
bottle
well, the
liquid
stories
there.
that came out, Malone was pretty aggressive with the players, like kind of getting into their in shorts a little bit, like kind of like roughing them up, and that's not the modern day athlete doesn't go for that a little much. You're not going to be
Well,
embarrassed,
yeah.
and
And the GM supposedly was unhappy that he didn't want to play some of these young guys that he had drafted. There were a couple of guys whose names were mentioned like they were on a Clockwork Orange, and that Malone was playing veterans instead, and he didn't really care for that. But hell of a matchup. The Clippers, who closed better? Holy Billy Crystal, what are we looking at here, Mike Jones? Clippers and the Denver Nuggets. Now, about a month out, I thought the Nuggets were coming on in a fashion that, and we know Jamal Murray is often injured, and Jokic is outstanding, but you're not sure if without Murray scoring that they have enough firepower to compete with these sort of Western high wire acts. But the Clippers have been playing great basketball. That's a tough series. I don't know if you saw the odds on the
yeah.
series. Are the Clippers favored, even though they're the 5th seed versus a 4?
Um, I would think it's a pick 'em, right? Were you close to it,
Denver has
right?
the home court advantage. Best
Yeah, it's maybe Denver would have to be 130, 140, I would think, just because of the history. But I heard a good point yesterday about where's Kawhi? Does he miss a game in this playoffs? He's been sitting a lot of games lately. Where he revved it up yesterday to probably not have to go to the play-in. But someone says, will he be consistent throughout the throughout the series? So I think it's going to be tight. That's going to be a really good one to watch. I think they're all going to be fantastic. But yeah,
T-Wolves
the
and the
West.
Lakers. Is that any bargain for the Lakers that they drew the Timberwolves in the
I
first
don't
round?
think so. I don't think so. I think T Wolves are packed, loaded. That's going to be a tough series than people think. I mean, they have size. They don't have an answer for Gobert and Naz Reid are two big guys. I would give Minnesota a legit shot at that. They'll struggle guarding Luka and LeBron, but the other guys, I think Edwards is going to give the headache that he wants. Maybe LeBron will have to find a fountain of middle age and come back and and give Anthony Edwards a run. But that should be an interesting series.
Yeah, no slouch opponent there to open up for the LA Lakers. Eastern Conference. Do you find this that when you watch any kind of panel discussion about anything, but especially NBA basketball on ESPN, that you can summarily dismiss the opinions of virtually everybody on the panel there and go the opposite way if you're betting? But I did hear sort of a consensus of people on an ESPN show saying that they thought the Bucks had a legitimate chance, that they were the third team in the East that actually had a chance to come out and make it out of the Eastern Conference into the finals, NBA Finals. Pacers, I've been watching a little Pacer basketball lately. They've been sort of impressive. I mean, they were an injury away from, and even without Halliburton in the lineup, that they still made a good account of themselves last year in their playoff series against, I would imagine, they're your New York Knickerbockers. No, Mike Jones, are you a Knicks fan?
Been a Knicks fan for a while, kind of turned the heat. I was a huge Knicks fan growing up. When Riley went to the Knicks, I loved it. When I moved down to Florida and Riley followed me, I joke about that. But when he came down here, I turned my allegiance kind of to the Heat just because I love Riley so much.
Sure.
And then, but I was a Knicks fan all growing up, so I keep an eye on them. If they go far, I'm usually pretty happy about it. But yeah, I think they're in. It's a tough, tricky, interesting series. A young team that might give them a headache, and then the Indiana, is tough. They went to the Eastern Final last year, right? If I'm not mistaken, right? Didn't Indiana get to
Yeah,
the final?
no,
Yeah,
Indiana was terrific towards the end of the regular season. You got Rick Carlisle going against Doc Rivers in the coaching matchup. Not sure how much depth and validity that has. I mean, the two coaches aren't out there. If they played each other one-on-one, I don't know. I mean, Carlisle looks like he could make a pretty good game of it.
yeah.
He does look like the victim in a vampire movie, though, doesn't he? He looks like he's a quart low on blood. But you would have to think that the coaching matchup with Doc Rivers' history, speaking of choking, with Doc Rivers having had any number of outstanding configurations of players and only winning the championship once when he had the Celtics, when he could have won many more, or so it seemed, still being considered a great coach, doesn't appear to be. I mean, his end game strategies are highly suspect on many occasions.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's an interesting matchup. Although your tendency would be to think that the Bucks probably come out on top, depending obviously on the stature of Damian Lillard. All right. Well, I asked if you were a Knick fan for a reason, because I was at one time a diehard Knick fan. I still have a soft spot in my heart for the Knicks because I grew up in New York and we loved it. And everybody wanted to be Dean Meminger, wearing number 7, and go out there and somehow have an NBA career, however brief, without really having a jump shot of any kind as a guard. But yeah, I mean, and I go all the way back to like Bells Bellamy and Butch Comives.
Wow.
Who, yeah, I mean, was that one of the great trades of all time in the history of sports?
Mm-hmm.
The Knicks getting Dave DeBusschere, the two
Yep.
sports star, and they deal Cole Ives, who was a bricklayer from the outside, even though he was a hot college player. And then Bells Bellamy was always good against Wilt and Russell, and against everybody else, he looked like dog shit.
Right.
But they open up against the Pistons, which, I mean, the Pistons, how JB Bickerstaff is not rewarding me at 9-1 as the coach of the year over Kenny Atkinson, who inherited a very good team when he took over the Cleveland Cavaliers. They might have gone all the way to the finals last year had they not had injuries also. But as you look at the Pistons, how is this guy not coach of the year? They won 3 times as many games this year as they did last year. 3 times. They tripled their win total.
Right. He's done an unbelievable job there. Dressed pretty well. They got some good players there, and Cunningham's a star in making. They're going to give the Knicks a run. Maybe not go 7, 6, maybe 5. They're going to win a game for sure.
Okay, but
Find a way. I think. I think the Indiana Milwaukee series will go long. Just we'll see how Lillard is coming off whatever he's heard about. I know he's resting, but it'll be a little rusty. So maybe Indiana game 1 might be a little play. Out west, I think the Lakers go 7. I don't know who wins. I think it's going to be close, and I wouldn't be surprised if Denver Clippers go 7. I think I think it's the extended series. These 2 weeks are going to be fun to watch. How these teams, what do we got? 2 games on the weekend. I think no, actually, it's probably 3 weeks, right? Because everybody plays 1 game on Saturday, right? Because it goes Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday, Sunday's game 1s from everywhere.
Yeah.
So then we only have game 3s by the next weekend. So we could be, past the NFL draft way before even one of these things gets.
Oh no, this is going to take. I wasn't sure.
3 weeks.
Going to be well into July by the time we crown a champion. All right, Mike. Good luck as we ease back into the wagers. Insane yesterday, tumultuous, and almost. The point of being torturous. What happened, and our sympathies and empathies go to the professor. That is stuff of which. 1 shot to win a golf tournament. That's why it's good to stay away from the chalk when you're doing this sort of thing and think a little bit outside the box. We unfortunately buried. There was a nice cash prize. I sent you the payouts there on that pool, which was a good one.
Next year,
$50 entry.
Do it short notice. I'll dig in a little bit harder next year. We were close. We had 3 guys.
Oh, there'll be several of them coming up. So they do them on all the majors and some of the other significant tournaments as well. So
enjoyed it.
You're in. You're officially in. I saw how much you enjoyed even losing that thing after 2 days. All right, Mike. Best of luck to you. All of your wagers. Thanks so much for joining us here, and thank you guys for joining us on a real BS session, as this turned out to be on Bury Your Bookie. We'll do it again tomorrow. We'll zero in on a couple of wagers for you with Scotty M, who's always frothing at the mouth and getting ready to swing into action. For Mike Jones, I'm Jeff DeForrest. We'll see you next time on the next edition of Bury Your Bookie.